Hello everybody, so today I'm going to be talking about how to import a character from the Fab Store, create character movement, create character input, and animations for the character. So let's go ahead, and what we're going to want to do here is just hit Control Space. This will toggle up our content drawer, and on our content, let's go ahead and right click, new folder, and let's call this char_nm. And this will just be our animation folder, or also hold our character stuff. So in this empty space in our folder, let's go ahead and right click. Let's go ahead and click blueprint class. And let's go to character. There are a couple other classes here we can use, and I will be going more in depth, hopefully in future videos. But if not, I suggest you guys do research on these as well. And they do have documentation here for these as well. So I do suggest you guys read that. But what we're going to do is go ahead and click character. And let's call this char_BP. So let's go ahead and double click this to open. And you'll be met with a window like this. So let's get compile and save just to get everything saved up. And so as you can see, we have nothing in our actual content to get to import a character here. So let's go ahead and click back to our map. Let's go and save it while we're here. Let's go to our window. Let's go ahead and go to the Fab Store. The Fab Store is great. I highly recommend you guys look through here and grab a bunch of assets that are free for the version that you're on. Just because it helps create world building and just helps create the environment that you want. So let's go ahead and click character. And let's go ahead and do the price by free. There is a lot in here. And I suggest you guys all look around and mess around with what you want to. But let's go ahead and just use, wow, this one, the Aura tutorial. That looks awesome. Let's just add that to cart while we're here. But like I said, just go ahead and look around while you're here. But I think we're just going to go ahead and do a simple default one. Let's go ahead and do adventure character here. And this looks like it works for most versions here. So let's go ahead and just add to our project. And when you click add to project, it should automatically add it to your project. Just wait for it to download. And from here, we can go ahead and close the Fab Store. We don't really need it from here on out. And if it sounds like I'm dying, it's because I am sick right now. So you can just ignore my nasally and congested voice. I can't speak. It's okay. So once we have our character downloaded here, we're going to go ahead and just look through all this stuff so we can go ahead and get familiar with this. So let's go look at textures. I'm assuming textures will just be the texture of the body, the cloth. Okay, that makes sense. Let's go ahead and open these, look at the mesh. Okay, so this will be our skeletons. And it looks like they already have a couple preset ones here for us. So they have a lot of these meshes here. So looking around here, they have a lot of these meshes. So we can go ahead and just see this. And they do have parts here, so we can also just mess around with the parts if we wanted to. But we're not going to do any of that. We're going to just do pretty simple stuff here. They also have maps. A lot of these Fab Store stuff have maps with demos. And here's a lot of the stuff that we do need as well. Here's the mesh, and here's the animations. So what we want to do is go into our character animation. We're going to go back into this little folder. We can go ahead and close these other little folders here just to organize everything a little better. Go into our character BP. You can press Control Space to open up your content drawer a little easier again. And let's go ahead and go into mesh. And let's just drag this. We can drag the skeleton in here. You could also go into the, where was it? In their mesh full right here. And they have these other skeletons. And I think I'll probably be messing with one of these. So let's go ahead and mess with, let's go ahead and get this guy right here. All right, here he is. So what we want to do is click on your mesh to be able to move him around. And we can go ahead and just, let's go ahead and face him the right way. And you're going to want to face him to where your arrow is pointing. So let's go ahead and do this. It's kind of a bigger model here. So we might make him a little small. A little short king, never hurt nobody. Actually, I lied. Only tall kings around here. Let's just make him a little bigger. Alrighty, so here is our character. So from here on out, let's just go ahead and get started with our character movement and our character setup. So let's go ahead and on our mesh, we're going to want to go ahead and click add. Let's go ahead and search up camera. Click camera, and let's call this first. I'm going to be showing you how to do a first person camera and a third person camera. The third person camera will come a little later, but it's the same ideas. So right here, when you're selected on the first person camera, you want to go ahead and go to the parent socket. And right here, it says select a different parent socket. So you want to click this little browse. You want to search head. And here you're going to click it. And it should attach straight to his dome. So once it's on his dome, you're going to be able to change the, you want to change the rotation of this. So what you're going to do is let's rotate around the X a little bit, not a little bit, a lot. Let's go change it on the Y axis. So let's go ahead and drag this out. And let's go ahead and push it in a little bit more on the Y. So it is on his head right here. As you can see, we'll be looking straight through his face right there. So let's go ahead and compile and save. And we can tweak it a little bit more later on. And we can fix out how this works. And you can also mess with the field of view here, of course. But let's just leave it at 90. So next, what we're going to do is we're going to go into our event graph. I call this the EG. A lot of people call it different things. I just call it the EG because I'm lazy to say the full thing. So ahead right here, we can go. You see all this? We can go ahead and delete that. We don't need that right now. So what we can do here, this is where we're going to do a lot of our programming. So in Unreal Engine 5, there is blueprints. Blueprints is visual block programming. And this is a much simpler way than going in and actually manually using C++. There is a lot more like stipulations and restrictions on this because it is visual programming, but it is a lot easier to get the hang of. In C++, you can get more nitty gritty, in depth, and stuff like that. But like I said, we're going to try to keep it simple and keep it base. So what we want to do here is once we compiled and saved everything, we're going to want to go to our edit, project settings, and we want to scroll down here until we find input. And I think I passed it. There it is, input. Input shall be in engine. And then you're going to have two mappings here. You're going to have action mapping and axis mapping. So action mappings are for like button clicks and stuff like that. So in that instance, we're going to go ahead and just click 2. We're going to add 2 here on the action mappings. So the first one will be, let's call it jumping. And right here on the right side, let's click add an action. So let's go down here. And you can click the select key value. So whenever you click this, it'll just basically record what key you press next. And I'm going to press space. That or you can manually search it up here. On this one, we'll search it up. And this one we'll call sprint. Let's go ahead and add an action. And right here for this one, we'll do shift. And we'll do left shift. And once we have those set up and connected, let's go ahead into axis mappings. Let's go ahead and add axis mappings here. And this is the same concept, but this one's for our looking, since it is our axis. So for here, we're going to do forward and backwards. You can name it whatever you want, but name it something that you will remember because we'll be calling back on this later. So I'm going to just call it /walk. So let's do W. Sometimes it does glitch out, so let's click W. Let's click D. Or S, I mean. And on S, we're going to make it -1 for the scale. And let's go ahead and click the next one. And let's call this left/right. Let's go ahead and add 2 buttons here. Let's do A. Let's do D. And D should be negative on the scale. And let's go ahead and add a couple more. Let's do mouse up and then mouse down. And then this one here, we're going to have to manually search this, and it should be mouse Y. And you can leave the scale on 1. Let's go ahead and add another input here. Oh, sorry, not input there, but at the very top, axis mappings. Go ahead and do that. Let's do mouse left, mouse right. Now let's go ahead and search up mouse. Let's look at the X value here. So this should be most of our default inputs. And we will probably go back to this. So I'm going to go ahead and just drag this up here. Because sometimes these scales, we might have to flip them or figure it out from there. Because it is sometimes a little wonky. So let's go ahead and just leave that up there. And let's go back into our character blueprint. Let's go ahead and right click. And this is where we're going to start setting up our character movement. So let's search up /walk. What I want to do here is you're going to see a lot of things here. You're going to see axis events and axis values. So what I want to do is go to the axis events and just click this one right here. So once we're here, we're going to want to drag off right here. And then want to do add movement input. Right here, this function right here. And we're going to go ahead and just drag this axis value here. And then in this empty space, let's go ahead and right click. Let's get control rotation. And on this return value, let's go ahead and right click and get the split struct pin. And the reason we're doing this is because we need the Z value. And right here, we're going to go ahead and right click, and we're going to want to get forward vector. Let's go ahead and get this one right here. And split struct pin. And to look around here, you're going to want to right click so you can look around, and you can scroll in, scroll out with your mouse wheel. So once you have it looking like this, let's go ahead and drag our Z to Z, and this will be our return position for the world direction. So that one should be our forward and backward. So let's go ahead and compile and save, and let's go back into our new map. And here is where we're going to add our actual player start. So what we want to do is go to the quickly and search up player, and then you'll see player start. You want to drag this up here. It should say bad size because it's in the world. So once you're in here, you want to go to selected game mode, and in here it won't let you change the default pawn class because of the game mode. So you want to do it in your content drawer as well, and your character anim, or you can do it in your home thing. I'm just going to do it over here. Let's go to blueprint class, and let's do game mode base. And then we're going to call this GM_BP. And in here, there is a lot you can do with here in this thing, and you can do you can create a more modular approach for the character movement, so then other players can use that instance of it. But I like doing it this way because we're doing a single player world, or it's only going to be us in these worlds. So for this instance, we don't really need this. But there is a way to do that. You can do, and I will drop a video on it in the description if you're further interested in that. But for now, we can just go ahead and save this, and we can just close it. We won't be using that. And in the world settings, we're in the game mode overrides, and we're going to use GMBP. And in this default pawn class, we're going to go to our content drawer again, go to our character anim. I'm going to drag in our BP here for default pawn class. And you will not see it spawn in the world. What we're going to do is go ahead and click save and then play. And our character is spawned in. We can't see ourselves because we are in first person. But if you press W and S, you will see that we have our forward and backward movement. So to get out of the PlayStation, to get out of the play like mode, so what we're going to do is press escape. And you are out of the mode. So let's go ahead and go back to our EG and our character BP. And what we want to do is we want to right click and look for left/right. And let's go to the axis fence here. And this will be pretty much the same. So we can go ahead and just honestly copy and paste this here. Drag this. We can copy and paste this here. This next one here will be a little different. So what we're going to want to be, what we're going to want to get is we're going to get right vector. And you want to split the struct pin. And you want to use the X value and the Z value here. And we want to drag this to here. Let's compile, save, click run. And on some machines, it will pop out like this. Or you can go to the new map and then run it from there. But I like the little pop-up. So let's press A. Let's press D. All right, so now we have movement. So I'm going to press escape. I'm realizing our stuff is inverted. So let's go ahead and just invert that in our project settings. I knew we'd need this. So here, let's just set A to negative. Let's set D to positive. So let's go ahead and just rerun this. All right, there you go. We have our movement set. So you can see we're moving around. So let's go ahead and set up our actual controls to look up and down and left and right. So let's go ahead and just drag this off a little bit. And let's go ahead and just sit right here. Let's go right click. Let's do mouse up, mouse down. Here you are. And this one's a lot easier. So what we want to do is drag off, and we want to just grab the pitch. Add controller pitch input. There you are. There you are. So this one should be everything we need for our up and down. And there is an issue that I am realizing here. So what we're going to do is go to our camera, and then we're going to do search up pawn. And then it'll be use pawn control rotation. So this will allow us to actually look around. So let's go ahead and compile and save again. All right, now we can look around. So now you can see our beautiful character. So you can see we're T-posing and we're cruising. And I'm noticing the axis for this one is flipped as well. So let's go ahead and just change that while we're here. So up and down, let's go ahead and just change that to negative. You can also change it here as well. So you can change mul. You can do multiply. And you can do -1 here as well. But I just like doing it in the project settings just so it's a little easier for me in long term. So let's go ahead and right click. And let's look for mouse left, mouse right. Here you are. And this one is going to be the yaw. So look for yaw. Add control yaw input. Drag that. All right, now let's compile and save. Let's run it. All right, and this one's looking perfect. You can see this is our character, and we're going around. All right, so now let's get our character up and jumping. So we can go ahead and organize this however we want. I'm going to drag this just right here next to it. And under this, I'm going to right click and look for jumping. Action input jumping. Here we go. And like I said on the action input, it will be for basically actions. So it'd be look for pressing, like releasing and stuff like that. So on the pressed here, we're going to drag off, and we're just look for the function jump. This is a function right here. Super simple, super easy. And we want to compile, save, run it. Now we have jumping. That is a super simple, easy way to do it, and I'm glad that Unreal has that. And then we'll be messing with our sprint feature in a little bit. So in here, we can go ahead and just honestly, let's move this a little down so we can set a different comment for this. So let's go ahead and drag all here. Let's press C, and let's call this moving. And here I'm going to press C. I'm going to call this jumping. And I can drag this in here as well, just so I can tidy it up. But I like adding comments to the code so you can kind of see exactly what is doing what. Let's go ahead and make this just a little bit bigger because we'll have sprinting here in the future. Let's just go ahead and compile and save this always. So from here, let's go ahead and set up our sprinting actually. So in your character movement, you can go ahead and open up all these real quick. And what we're going to want to do is we're going to look for our walking. Right here, character movement walking. Let's set our max speed to 300 here. So let's go ahead and right click at sprinting. It's typing too fast. So here's our thing, sprint. This is our button that we added earlier. So let's go ahead and drag this over. And so what we want to do here is we want to get our character movement. So what we want to do is drag this in, set it right here. And off of this, we can do the set maximum or set max walking. Set max walk speed. There it is. So for here, we'll do 600 for sprinting on pressed. We're also going to need another one of these. So let's go ahead and Control C, Control V. And let's set this to 300. And we can set this as a target. And this will just reset it when it's released. So this will be our pretty much our sprinting function. So let's go ahead and comment this. Let's call this sprinting. So let's compile, save, and let's just double check and see if this works. So we're doing this. There you go. So every time I press shift, as you can see, it gets a little blurry because we're sprinting a little faster. So that is our basic control setup here. And it might look a little confusing now, but in the future, when everyone here gets more into Unreal, you guys notice this will just get a lot easier. So now let's set up our character animations. So what we're going to do is we can go ahead and go to our map. We can just hit Control Space. And then in here, there's a couple things we want to do. We're going to want to create an animation blueprint. And we want to select our the mannequins, the skeleton that we used earlier. So right here, it'll be the Fab Store, the one I downloaded. But for y'all, it could be something else. And if y'all import it in, it'll be that one right there. So I'm just going to create this one. I'm going to call this anim_BP. All right, so once we have this set up, we're going to go ahead and open this up. And here is our animation graph. And we also have an event graph in here. Okay, so we'll get back to this later here. But for now, we're going to just leave this alone. And here in our animation, we can go ahead and just drag one of these animations that we have here that we found earlier. In our animations, of course. And if it doesn't show there, you can go ahead and just drag it from here as well. So we can go ahead and just drag in our idle. We can just do this. Let's compile. And this is our idle. But this is a pretty boring way to do this. So let's go ahead and just delete this. Compile it and save. So what I'm going to do is go back into our new map, or you can just leave it in there. Go into your content drawer. And in character animation, want to do right click, go to animation, and we want to go into the blend space. And you want to use your mannequin that you clicked earlier. So let's call this anim underscore blend space. So we want to open this up. And this is how we create a smoother animation. So let's go to the horizontal axis. Let's call this speed. And then let's set the maximum value. Our maximum running value is 600, as we said earlier in our sprinting. So once we're in here, you're going to see this timeline, and you can see your character. And this timeline, if you hold control while you're looking around, you'll see how it moves our X, and this will just be able to see how to play points. So on the very far left, let's go ahead and, actually before we do that, let's go ahead and look at what animations we have. So third person jump, idle, jump loop, run, and walk. Okay, so there's a lot here. There's a jump loop as well for whenever you are falling, so it's just an easier thing to loop into, just so it doesn't like keep on automatically playing your jumping animation. Just for those wondering. So what we want to do is drag our idle to the very far left. And you can click it, and there's our key. So what we want to do as well is we want to do our third person walk. Sometimes it gets a little glitchy in here, so let's go ahead and just give it a second. Walk, and we want to click this. And since our walking speed is 300, let's set this to 300. And then this last one will be run. Let's go ahead and set this to 600. And as you can see, this will be the gradual change between walk and run. This gives us the nice animation transition here. So let's go ahead and save this. And we can kind of leave the rest as it is. So in our animation here, in our animation BP, we're going to right click. And we want to go to state machine. Should be at the right here. You can also search up state machine. Let's click enter. Let's call this anims. Or you can call it whatever you want to call it. And let's go ahead and just drag this in. So in your state machine, you're going to want to double click in. And this will be our entry here. So our entry will go to our, we can go ahead and just drag in this anim, our blend space. So from here, entry, we can drag into here. We can compile it and then automatically activate this. As you can see, it's sending everything to our state machine. So from here, there's a couple things we're going to want to do. Since we already have our running in here, we're going to want to go into our jumping. So let's go ahead and drag off. We can add state, or we can just drag off our jumping. So let's go ahead and jump. And then our jump will just play. So let's go ahead and drag this there. And let's do our jump loop. And you can do a blend space for this one as well, but there's no real need as you're not doing a crazy transition. So what we want to do is drag from here to here. And then what we want to do is set this as automatic rule base, just so it automatically goes into here. And let's drag from here all the way back into the anim blend space over here. So what we want to do here, in this button right here that shows the transition rule, we're going to want to double click this transition rule. And then we're going to want to create a variable on the left side, and we're going to call this, we're just going to go ahead and call this jumping. So it's a bool. Let's go ahead and drag this out. We're going to want to get jumping. And this will basically just pass the instance if jumping. So let's go back into our anims, and let's go into here. Drag here again, get jumping. Drag off of jumping, let's do not. And let's do the not boolean. And then there you go. And that is the transition result there. And that is just to basically detect if we were in the air. So let's go ahead and just close it because we have multiple of these state machines up. So we can go ahead and just open it here. And this will be pretty much our state machine loop. And this is a pretty simplified version. These can get pretty complex. And say you have more animations, there are more things you can do with this. So say you're strafing left, strafing right in the air. You can see this can get pretty complicated, especially with your bowls and things like that. So let's go ahead and go back to our event graph. And I understand I'm kind of brushing over the Boolean, but I feel like most of us know what the Boolean function is. So before we go back into our event graph, actually, let's go into our animation BP. And off this speed, we're going to right click. We're going to promote this to a variable. So we're going to just leave that there and we're going to compile it and save. And let's just go ahead and check to see if this is working. So our animation state is not working currently. It's because we forgot to connect it to our actual character. So let's go to character BP herself. Make sure we're using animation blueprint. And anim class, let's go to our anim BP. Let's go to compile, save, click here. And now you can see we're idling. So once we start moving up, it should have transitioned into our thing. So let's go ahead and debug the problem here. Oh, and I understand the issue here. So it's because we haven't set up our speed to any value we have yet. I was racking my brain and I realized we don't have our speed set yet. So let's go to our EG here. And what we want to do here is we're going to right click and initialize animation. And this will just initialize our animation here. And then we're going to drag off, cast to, and then our thing should be car underscore BP. And this will just be the name of your blueprint. So if you named it something else like Bob underscore BP or whatever you want to name your character, it'll just be that. So you're going to click that right there. And we want to drag off. And then it should be character movement. So get character movement here. Or actually, this is not how we do it here. So we're going to want to go ahead and we can go ahead and delete this. And you should be able to just press the delete button on that line there. And what we want to do here is we want to drag this off actually and promote this to a variable. So on the variable here on the left side, we can drag this off the left side and let's drag this to the target here. And off this character movement, let's look for the velocity. Let's get velocity here. And let's get the vector length. And then let's grab our speed. And let's set our speed here. So let's just grab that, set that there. Then what we want to do here is we're going to drag this up here, drag this down here. And for the tripod get owner, we're going to want to drag this to the object there. And then for this event action, we're going to do this right here. Or update animation. So we want to save, compile it. Let's go ahead and press play. Let's go see if our animation updates. Oh, there it is. So once we run, there you go. We are looking a little slow when we're walking, but it is okay. And we do look a little goofy sometimes. But this is a free character thing, so we can't complain too much. My neck looks like it is actually twisting. Wow. Okay, so I'm going to press escape on here to get out of that. And let's go ahead and set up our jumping. So in our character movement right here, let's go ahead and drag off. And there should be a thing called is falling. So once we're here, we're going to also want to grab one of our variables here in the bottom left. Let's set this. Drag this to this. Return value to jumping. So let's go ahead and compile and save. And let's see if this works. There you go. We have our jumping animation now. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward, and that is pretty much all we have. So let's go ahead and do this. Let's go ahead and name this. Let's call this casting / init. Let's go ahead and grab this, and let's call this updating / setting. And these are our two main things that we'll have in our most of our animation blueprints. And you can simplify it a little bit more, but this is just the more general rule of thumb that we run here. And let's go back into our animation state machine here. And let's go a little bit more in depth on how all this works. So right here, we're getting our character BP here, and we're casting here, of course. And we're getting all of this information here from the vector length, and we're setting the speed to this. And this is updating our speed value, which is updating our speed here for our blend space. And as we saw in our blend space here, we set this one to 300 and we set this one to 600. And this one's our speed. So whenever this updates, our max walking speed will be 300. So that is why we set those to those values there. And then whenever we hit our shift, our sprinting button, it'll change our value to 600 as set here, our max walking speed, which will then update our speed value here. So that is pretty much the simple idea behind it. And in our transition state here, we'll do jumping, and we're basically just checking the Boolean. So if not jumping, this is pretty much, this is automatically false here. And then doing this, setting this to loop automatically, is what we did in the transition state here, automatic roll base. So it'll automatically go into the jump loop. And on this transition roll back, we're setting jumping to not. So basically saying you're not jumping. And the way it detects that is in our event graph actually. So here in the is falling, it basically just detects if you are in the air. So whenever you have that set here, and it drags our value to jumping, it just sets it to the false value here. So I'm going to save this, and we can do this in air. So when we're jumping, we're technically falling. So that's why it does our jump animation automatically there. So you can kind of see. Let's go and press escape there. But before I end it off, I mentioned that I was going to do third person camera as well. So on our character BP here, what we want to do here is we go to viewport in the top here. And we can also close this construction scripting. That is whenever we get more in depth. We can leave that right now. So in our character BP self right here, we can do add. Let's do spring. You'll say spring arm. We can just leave that spring, or you can call this boom. I'll call it whatever. And then you can add camera. And in this, I'm going to call this third. So on this boom, you see there is a third. There's a camera here. So let's go ahead and change this angle. Now let's go ahead and change the actual axis of this. So let's go ahead and do this. And you can change the target arm length so you can make it go further, closer. So let's go ahead and do that. And here, we should be able to set this one to automatic. So I think it's search up auto activate on that one. Let's go to this one, auto activate. Let's turn this one off. So we set that one to false. And in our settings, actually, let's go back into our input and let's set up an action input. Let's search up, let's call this camera, let's call it swap. And this one can be any button you choose. I'm going to just do C. So we can go ahead and close this. Let's compile save. And let's go back into our event graph. And this is going to be a completely new one. So let's go ahead and search up swap. So what we're going to want to do is probably do a flip flop. So let's go ahead and do this. So on pressed, we have A and B. So flip flop, every time this button is pressed, it will just flip and flop. Okay, so once we're here, we're going to want to drag our first person camera here. And we're going to drag our third person camera here. And we can just leave these side by side, as we'll be using both of them. And then I think we should be able to drag off of here and do set active. And then we can copy and paste this. We can set this one here as well. Okay, well, I guess you can't copy and paste it. It's being a little weird. Let's go ahead and set active there. So on A, we'll drag there. And on B, we should drag here. And this will get a little wonky. So we can go ahead and drag our third person over here. And drag our first person down here. Just to keep it a little more clean. And what I want to do here is drag off and click another set active. And the same thing on under here. And what I want to do is Control C, Control V. And set this target down here. And then Control C and Control V up here. And set this target over here. And this is a little bit of a barbaric way to set this up because you can just drag off of here and like drag all the way across, but it just makes it a little bit cleaner. And then what I'm going to do here is set third a new active and then set this one a new active. But so what we're going to do is compile save here. And every time we press C, it will change our location here of first person and third person. Another tip I will say is in our project settings, let's go ahead and go back to our all settings. In our modes, maps and modes here, you can go ahead and change your default maps. So if you have your default map and ours is the game start map, ours is going to be called new map. So we can go ahead and change these to both new map. So we can just default those. And our game mode base here, we're going to do GMBP. And that one just will automatically, every time you open this one, open up this save, it'll automatically just start up this map and it'll leave it in the default game mode so you won't have to change anything later on. And then next we'll be going to the actual character interaction and things like that. So we'll go into how to open doors, how to pick up items, how to show how you have the item. And then I'll probably be going into more actual GUI. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this.